The week I ran away to escape my problems was the week I finally found myself. I went looking for peace and quiet by a pool. What I found was a woman named Amanda, who would turn my entire world upside down and teach me what it really means to be free. I was 28 years old when I bought a one-way ticket to paradise and didn't tell anyone why I was really leaving. Not my mother, who thought I was being impulsive. Not my sister, who said I was running away. Not even myself, if I'm being honest. All I knew was that I needed to get out of my apartment that still smelled like his cologne, out of the city where every corner held a memory of his lies, out of the life I'd built with a man who turned out to be a stranger wearing a familiar face. His name was Derek. We'd been together for 3 years. He cheated with a coworker, lied about working late, and when I finally caught him, he looked at me with those empty eyes and said, "It didn't mean anything." As if that made it better. As if 3 years of my life could be erased by 5 words and a shrug. So I left. Not just him, but everything. I maxed out my credit card on a resort I couldn't afford, packed a suitcase with bikinis and sundresses I'd never worn, and flew halfway across the world to a place where nobody knew my name or my story. Sunday sea, cocktails, no plans. That was my mantra as the plane touched down. The hotel was one of those places you see in magazines, all white walls and turquoise water, palm trees swaying like they were put there by a set designer. I checked into my room, dropped my bags by the door without unpacking, and headed straight down to the pool. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to feel. I just wanted to sit with a book by the water and let the heat bake the sadness out of my bones. That's where I first saw her, Amanda. She was perched on the edge of a lounger, legs dangling in the water, hair slicked back and dripping like she'd just surfaced from the deep end. She looked about 26, maybe younger. Tan skin, white bikini, laugh lines around her eyes even though she couldn't have been laughing for that many years. She was on her phone, speaking English with a soft accent I couldn't quite place, and she was laughing at something the person on the other end said. Later, I'd learned she was from Canada, Vancouver specifically. A city I'd never been to but would eventually call my second home. But in that moment, she was just a stranger. A beautiful stranger who seemed completely comfortable being alone. I walked past her toward an empty chair, my book clutched against my chest like a shield. I wasn't looking for company. I wasn't looking for anything, except silence and sunshine. "Hi." I stopped, turned. She was looking up at me, phone lowered, eyes bright with something I couldn't name. Curiosity, maybe. Or recognition, like she'd been waiting for me. "You're alone too?" she asked. Casual, no agenda, just a simple observation delivered with a smile. I nodded, suddenly aware of how lonely I must have looked. Solo traveler. No friends, no plans. Just a woman running away from her own life. "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded rusty, like I hadn't used it in days. Maybe I hadn't. She gestured to the lounger beside hers. "Want to sit?" I should have said no. I should have smiled politely and kept walking. But something in her eyes made me stop. Something open and real, and completely without pretense. "Sure," I heard myself say. I sat down, put my book on my lap, and waited for the small talk. The "where are you from" questions, the "what do you do for work" interrogation, the surface-level vacation chit-chat that never goes anywhere. But Amanda didn't do small talk. "I'm Amanda," she said, holding out her hand. Her palm was warm, a little damp from the pool. I shook it, felt something spark in my chest that I immediately ignored. "Stella," I replied. "Nice to meet you, Stella." She settled back in her chair, arms behind her head, face tilted toward the sun. "So, what are you running from?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" She turned her head, grinned. "Come on. Nobody comes to a place like this alone unless they're running from something. Or toward something, I guess. But usually running from." I should have been offended. Should have shut down the conversation right there. But instead, I found myself laughing. Actually laughing, for the first time in weeks. A toxic relationship, I admitted. You? Same, she said. Well, not toxic, just burned out. Work, life, expectations. Everything felt heavy, so I bought a ticket and here I am. How long are you here for? A week. You? Same. We sat in silence for a moment. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. The sun beat down, the water sparkled, and somewhere behind us, a child shrieked with laughter as they jumped into the pool. What's your favorite childhood memory? Amanda asked suddenly. I turned to look at her. That's a random question. I hate small talk, she said with a shrug. Tell me something real, or don't tell me anything at all. I thought about it. Really thought about it. When was the last time someone asked me something like that? When was the last time anyone wanted to know me, not just the version of me I presented to the world? My grandmother's kitchen, I said finally. She used to let me help her bake cookies every Sunday. She'd let me eat the dough even though she said it would give me a stomachache. It never did. Amanda smiled. That's sweet. Mine is camping with my dad. We'd go every summer, just the two of us. He'd let me stay up late and we'd count shooting stars. I never saw any, but he always pretended he did just to make me feel better. We talked for an hour, then another. The sun moved across the sky, and my book stayed unopened on my lap. Amanda told me about her big, loud, close-knit family. Her 3 brothers, her mom who called her every day, her dad who still cried at commercials. I told her about my family, distant and polite and complicated. Parents who stayed together out of obligation, not love. A sister I barely spoke to. She asked me about my worst date. I told her about the guy who brought his ex-girlfriend as a friend and spent the entire night talking to her while I sat there eating breadsticks. She laughed so hard she snorted, and something in my chest loosened. I asked her what she'd do if she won the lottery. She said she'd buy a house on the ocean and fill it with rescue dogs. I said I'd travel the world and never come back. Where would you go first? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. Everywhere, nowhere. I just want to feel free. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. Maybe ever. You will, she said quietly. Freedom isn't a place, Stella. It's a feeling. And you're already halfway there. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. When I finally stood to leave, Amanda called after me. Same time tomorrow? I turned back. She was smiling, hopeful but not desperate. Like my answer didn't matter as much as the asking. Yeah, I said. Same time. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversation. Amanda's laugh. The way she looked at me when I spoke, like every word mattered. The warmth of her hand when we shook. It's nothing, I told myself. She's just friendly. Just nice. Just a stranger I'll never see again after this week. But even as I thought it, I knew I was lying. The next morning, I woke up early and told myself I wouldn't go looking for her. I'd have breakfast alone, spend the day alone, remember why I came here in the first place. To heal, to reset, to figure out who I was without Derek. But when I walked into the breakfast buffet, scanning the room out of habit, Amanda was already there. She saw me at the same moment I saw her, and her face lit up like I'd made her entire morning. She waved. Stella! Sit! It wasn't a question. It was a command delivered with such warmth that I couldn't possibly refuse. I sat. We started spending time together after that. Not because we planned it, but because it just happened. Mornings meant coffee on her balcony, which had a better view than mine. She'd lean on the railing in an oversized t-shirt, hair messy from sleep, and we'd talk about nothing. Cloud shapes, bad hotel art, Why seagulls screamed at the beach like they were personally offended by the ocean. She'd rub sunscreen on my back before we went down to the pool. I'd do hers. We laughed because I always used too much, leaving white streaks across her shoulders that she'd have to blend in herself. I'd try to read my book while she swam, but I'd always end up watching her instead. The way she moved through the water like she was born in it. The way she'd surface and push her hair back, water droplets catching the light. She caught me staring once and grinned. "That's the same page you were on 20 minutes ago." I blushed, looked down. "I'm a slow reader." "Sure you are." Evenings meant the hotel bar, cocktails we couldn't pronounce, conversations that stretched until midnight. She told me about her ex-girlfriend. They'd dated for 2 years, broke up peacefully when they both realized they wanted different things. She wanted adventure. Her ex wanted stability. "No hard feelings, though," Amanda said, swirling her drink. "We're still friends. She's married now, actually, to a woman who gives her everything I couldn't." "That's mature," I said. She shrugged. "Love isn't about ownership. It's about wanting the other person to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include you." I said nothing about my own feelings for women. I couldn't. Because I'd spent years denying them, burying them, pretending they didn't exist. In college, I'd kissed a girl at a party, then another, then spent the next decade dating men to prove it didn't mean anything. I'm not like that, I'd told myself. I'm normal, but inside, something twisted every time Amanda laughed at my jokes. Every time she brushed my hand by accident. Every time she looked at me like I was the most interesting person she'd ever met. I'd feel heat in my chest, then panic. "This is wrong. Stop." On day 2, Amanda found a stray cat by the pool. She spent 20 minutes trying to feed it cocktail olives while I watched from my chair, pretending to read, heart doing flips in my chest for reasons I refused to examine. She named it Pickles. "Pickles?" I asked. "He looks like a pickles," she said seriously. "Don't you, buddy?" The cat ignored her and walked away. She looked genuinely heartbroken. On day 3, we rented bikes and got lost on a back road. We ended up at a tiny fruit stand run by an old woman who spoke no English. We bought mangoes using hand gestures and smiles, then sat on the curb eating them, juice running down our wrists. Amanda wiped a drop from my chin with her thumb. I froze. She didn't notice. Or pretended not to. That night, I lay awake replaying that single moment. The warmth of her thumb, the gentleness of the gesture, the way my entire body had locked up like I'd been touched by lightning. "It's nothing," I told myself. "She's just friendly." But each day, I caught myself waiting for her, scanning the crowd for her face. When she went to her room alone at night, I wanted to follow. Wanted to knock on her door and say, "What?" What could I possibly say? So I held back. Told myself it was vacation hormones. Loneliness. Rebound feelings from Derek. "She's just a friend," I repeated like a prayer. Just a friend. But prayers don't work when you're lying to yourself. On the 4th day, it rained. Not a gentle tropical shower, but a full storm that turned the sky gray and sent everyone running for cover. The pool emptied within minutes, leaving behind abandoned towels and half-finished drinks. I stood under the awning, watching the rain hammer the water's surface, feeling oddly disappointed that our routine had been disrupted. "Stella?" I turned. Amanda was jogging toward me from the other side of the pool, already soaked, her sundress clinging to her skin. She was laughing, arms wrapped around herself, hair plastered to her face. "Come on," she said, grabbing my hand without asking. "Let's wait it out inside." Her hand was warm and wet, and I told myself the jolt I felt was just static electricity. Nothing more. We ended up in the lobby, which was crowded with other displaced guests. Amanda spotted a coffee table in the corner with 2 chairs and pulled me toward it like we were claiming territory. Someone had left a deck of cards behind. She scooped them up, started shuffling. Do you know how to play crazy eights? No. Good. I'll teach you. I always win when I teach people. She wasn't lying. I lost every single round, but I didn't mind because watching her play was more entertaining than winning. She'd bite her lip when she was thinking, tap her cards against the table when she was confident, and let out this little laugh every time she caught me with a draw four. On the seventh round, I actually won. I put down my last card with a triumphant flourish. Amanda grinned. Congratulations. Thank you, I said proudly. I let you win. I blinked. What? I let you win, she repeated, still grinning. You looked so sad losing every time. I couldn't take it anymore. You let me win? I demanded, but I was smiling despite myself. Can't let you hate me, she said, eyes twinkling. We still have 3 days left. My stomach flipped. 3 days. Only 3 days left of this. Of her. I looked down at the cards, suddenly afraid she'd see something in my face I wasn't ready to show. I could never hate you, I said quietly. When I glanced up, she was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Soft, serious, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Good, she said finally. Because I really like you, Stella. The way she said it made my heart stutter. Like she meant more than the words conveyed. Like there were layers underneath I was too afraid to excavate. I like you too, I wanted to say. More than I should. More than I understand. But instead, I just smiled and said, Same. You're easy to be around. Something flickered in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe. But it was gone before I could be sure. That night, I stood in the shower too long, water turning cold, trying to wash away the ache that had settled in my chest. I pressed my forehead against the tile and whispered the truth I'd been avoiding. I like her. I like her and I don't know what to do about it. The water offered no answers, just cold, brutal honesty that left me shivering. The fifth day dawned clear and hot, like the storm had never happened. Amanda suggested we spend the day at the beach, so we packed bags and walked the 10 minutes to the public access. The sand was white and soft, the water impossibly blue. We claimed a spot under a palm tree and spent hours doing nothing. She read a thriller she'd brought from home. I attempted to read my book, but mostly just watched her from behind my sunglasses, the way she'd wrinkle her nose at a plot twist, the way she'd absently play with her hair while she read, the way her lips moved slightly as she followed the words. Stella? I jumped. Yeah? You're staring again. I'm not. She lowered her sunglasses, looked at me over the frames. You are. What are you thinking about? Everything. Nothing. You. Just zoning out, I said. The heat makes me spacey. She studied me for a long moment, then went back to her book. But I saw the small smile on her lips, like she knew I was lying. We swam later, when the sun was at its peak. The water was bathwater warm, crystal clear. Amanda dove under and stayed down so long I started to panic. When she finally surfaced, she was laughing at the look on my face. Thought I drowned? Don't do that, I said, more harshly than I intended. Her smile faded. Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I immediately felt guilty. No, I'm sorry. I was worried. She swam closer, treading water in front of me. You worry about me? Always, I thought. Every second you're not in front of me, I'm wondering where you are. You're my only friend here, I said instead. If something happened to you, I'd have to go back to being alone. Can't have that, she said softly. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. I'd miss you too much if you were gone. We floated there, facing each other, water lapping between us. The beach noise faded. The world narrowed to just her face, her eyes, the space between us that felt both infinite and non-existent. Say something, I thought desperately. Say what you're really thinking. But I chickened out, looked away, started swimming back to shore. That evening, we showered and changed and met for dinner at the hotel restaurant. Amanda wore a sundress, yellow with white flowers, and I couldn't stop looking at her. She'd left her hair down, still damp, and she'd put on lipstick for the first time since I'd met her. "You look nice," I said when she sat down. She smiled, pleased. "Thanks. You too." We ordered wine, shared appetizers, talked about everything except the tension that had been building between us all day. She told me about her job in graphic design, how she worked remotely, which gave her the freedom to travel. I told her about my job in marketing, how I'd probably be fired when I got back for taking vacation without proper notice. "Worth it?" she asked. I looked at her across the candlelit table, at the way the light made her eyes shine, and knew the answer. Yes, completely worth it. After dinner, she suggested we get one more drink at the bar. We sat on stools, shoulders touching, and I felt hyper-aware of every point of contact. Her knee brushed mine. Her hand landed on my forearm when she laughed at something I said. Each touch felt deliberate and accidental at the same time. "Stella," she said after her second mojito, "can I ask you something personal?" My heart rate spiked. "Sure. Have you ever been with a woman?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. I could lie. I could deflect. I could change the subject. Instead, I told the truth. "In college," I said quietly, "a few times. But I told myself it didn't mean anything, that I was just experimenting. And now? Now I'm sitting here wanting to kiss you so badly I can barely breathe." "I don't know," I whispered. "I've spent so long telling myself I'm straight that I don't know what the truth is anymore." Amanda turned on her stool to face me fully. "Do you want to know what I think?" I nodded, unable to speak. "I think you've been lying to yourself because it was easier than being honest. I think you've been afraid of what other people would say, what they'd think. So you dated men and pretended it was what you wanted." Tears pricked my eyes. "How do you know?" "Because I did the same thing for years," she said gently. "Until I met someone who made me stop lying, who made me realize that living authentically was worth the fear." "What happened?" I kissed her, and everything changed. We sat in silence, the bar noise swirling around us. My hands were shaking. I gripped my glass to steady them. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I know," Amanda said. "But Stella, being scared means you're about to do something brave." She finished her drink, stood up. "It's late. We should get some sleep." I wanted to grab her hand, wanted to tell her not to go, wanted to be brave, but I just nodded and watched her walk away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying our conversation, replaying every moment of the past 5 days. The way she looked at me, the way she touched me, the way she saw through every lie I'd ever told myself. At midnight, I gave up on sleep and went down to the pool. It was deserted, just the underwater lights casting blue shadows on the deck. I sat on the edge, feet in the water, and let the tears finally come. I was crying for the girl I used to be, the one who kissed other girls at parties and pretended it meant nothing. I was crying for all the years I'd wasted trying to be someone I wasn't. I was crying for Derek, who I'd never really loved because I'd never let myself love honestly. And I was crying because in 3 days, Amanda would get on a plane and disappear from my life, and I'd be left with nothing but regret. "Stella?" I spun around. Amanda was standing there in her pajamas, hair loose around her shoulders, concern written all over her face. "What are you doing here?" I asked, wiping my eyes quickly. "Couldn't sleep. Saw you from my balcony." She came closer, sat down beside me. "What's wrong?" "Everything. Nothing. You." "I'm just thinking," I said. "About?" "About how I've wasted my whole life being afraid." Amanda was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Let's swim." "What?" "Come on. The water's warm. It'll help clear your head." She stood up, pulled her t-shirt over her head. Underneath, she wore a sports bra and shorts. She dove in before I could protest. I watched her surface, hair slicked back, water streaming down her face. Come on, Stella, don't make me swim alone. I stood up, pulled off my cover-up, and slid into the water in my tank top and shorts. She was right. The water was warm, enveloping, like being held. We swam for a while in silence, just moving through the water. Then Amanda said, "Can I tell you something?" Always. I felt it from day one. This thing between us. My heart stopped. What thing? Don't play dumb. You know what I'm talking about. I did. God, I did. Amanda, I'm not asking you for anything, she said quickly. I just wanted you to know. I felt it, and I think you felt it too. We were treading water in the middle of the pool now, the moon hanging overhead, its reflection rippling between us. I couldn't see her face clearly in the darkness, but I could feel her presence like gravity. You ever think, she said softly, that some moments feel bigger than they should? My throat closed. I couldn't answer. She swam closer, very close. Close enough that I could see her eyes in the dim light. Dark, serious, searching mine for something. Stella, she whispered. I froze, heart pounding so hard I thought she must be able to hear it. She didn't look away, didn't move back, just stayed there, inches away, waiting. I felt her breath on my cheek, felt the water moving between us, felt time stop. She leaned in slowly. So slowly I could have stopped it, could have pulled back, could have said no. I didn't. Her lips touched mine, soft, careful, like asking permission. I tasted chlorine and the cocktail she'd had at dinner, and something uniquely her. The kiss was barely there at first, just a question mark against my mouth. Then deeper when I didn't pull away. She pressed closer, hand finding my waist under the water. I responded without thinking, without letting fear win. My arms slid around her neck, my fingers tangled in her wet hair. The kiss lasted seconds but felt like forever. Her mouth moved gently, testing, then sure when I kissed her back. Water lapped around us. The night air was warm. Everything else disappeared. When we finally pulled apart, we just stared at each other. She smiled, uncertain for the first time since I'd met her. Sorry if she started. Don't, I cut her off. Don't apologize. We climbed out of the pool, sat on the edge with our feet in the water. I was shaking, but not from cold. My entire body felt electrified, awake, alive in a way it never had before. I didn't plan that, Amanda said quietly. Me neither, I answered. And then it all spilled out. Everything I'd been holding back. I told her about my rules, my fear, how long I'd denied myself, how I'd dated men to prove I was fine, how every time a woman smiled at me, I looked away, how I'd convinced myself I was straight because it was easier than facing the truth. She listened, holding my hand, thumb tracing circles on my palm. I felt it from day one, she said again. But I didn't want to push, didn't want to scare you away. I was already scared, I admitted. I've been scared since the moment I met you. And now? I looked at her, really looked at her, at this woman who'd somehow seen past every wall I'd built, who'd made me feel more myself in 5 days than I had in 28 years. Now I'm still scared, I said, but I'm also free. For the first time in my life, I feel free. She smiled, squeezed my hand. Good. That's a start. We didn't sleep together that night. Not in that way. We just lay on the loungers, looked at the stars, held hands. She traced circles on my palm, and I told her about my first crush, a girl in high school I never spoke to. A girl I'd watched from afar and convinced myself I just wanted to be friends with. She told me about her first kiss behind a cinema at age 16, terrified someone would see. How she'd gone home and cried because she'd been so happy and so scared at the same time. Did it get easier? I asked. Yes and no, she said honestly. Coming out was hard. Losing some people was hard. But living authentically, That's the easiest thing I've ever done, because I'm not pretending anymore. We talked until the sky started to lighten, that soft purple before dawn. I was exhausted but wired, my mind racing even as my body begged for sleep. Come on, Amanda said, standing and pulling me up. Let's go to my room. You need to sleep. I followed her, too tired to argue. Her room was identical to mine, but felt completely different. Her clothes were thrown over a chair. Her laptop sat open on the desk. A book lay spine up on the nightstand. She gave me a t-shirt to sleep in. I changed in the bathroom, caught sight of myself in the mirror. My lips were swollen from kissing. My eyes were bright despite the lack of sleep. I looked different. I looked happy. When I came out, Amanda was already in bed, covers pulled back on the other side. I climbed in beside her, suddenly shy. Just sleep, she said softly. We'll figure everything else out tomorrow. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, hyper aware of her beside me. Then her hand found mine under the covers. Good night, Stella. Good night, Amanda. I fell asleep holding her hand, feeling safer than I had in years. I woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Amanda was sitting cross-legged on the bed beside me, 2 cups in hand, watching me with a soft smile. Morning, sleepyhead. I sat up, took the coffee she offered. What time is it? Almost noon. You were exhausted. Sorry. Don't be. You needed it. She set her cup down, turned to face me fully. So, we should probably talk about last night. My stomach clenched with anxiety. Yeah. Do you regret it? No, I said immediately. Do you? Not even a little bit. She reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. But I need to know what you're thinking. What you want. What I wanted. The question I'd been avoiding my entire adult life. I want to kiss you again, I whispered. She smiled. That can be arranged. This time when she kissed me, it was slow and easy. No rush, no panic. Just her mouth on mine, her hand on my cheek, sunlight streaming through the windows. I could feel her heartbeat through her t-shirt, could taste the coffee on her lips. When we pulled apart, she whispered, "Stay with me today." Okay. We didn't leave the room. We ordered room service, watched old movies on her laptop, talked about everything and nothing. She fell asleep on my shoulder halfway through the second film, and I didn't move for 2 hours, just sat there holding her, feeling her breathe. When she woke up, she stretched like a cat and smiled at me. Sorry, I'm a terrible host. Best host I've ever had, I said honestly. The rest of the day passed in a bubble. We existed only in that room, in that moment, in the space we'd created between us. She showed me photos on her phone from back home, her family, her friends, her apartment with its view of the mountains. I showed her mine, though they felt lifeless in comparison. You look sad in all your photos, she observed. I was, I said. I just didn't realize it. That evening, we finally left the room. We walked hand in hand down to dinner, and I half expected the world to stop and stare. But nobody cared. Nobody noticed. We were just 2 women having dinner together. Under the table, she held my hand. I held hers back. What happens when we go home? I asked quietly. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, but I don't want this to end. Me neither. So it doesn't have to, she said simply. Texts, calls, visits. Real ones. We make it work. You live in Vancouver. I live in Chicago. So we visit. So we figure it out. So we try. She squeezed my hand. Unless you don't want to. I want to, I said immediately. I'm just scared. I know. But Stella, you've already done the scariest part. You've stopped lying to yourself. Everything else is just logistics. I laughed despite myself. Just logistics. Just logistics, she repeated firmly. The last 2 days of vacation passed in a blur. We were together constantly, walking on the beach, swimming in the pool, kissing in the elevator when no one was looking. She held my hand everywhere, and I let her, feeling braver each time. I called my mom on the second to last day, lied and said I'd met a friend. Amanda laughed. You'll tell her soon. Will I? Yes, because you're brave, Stella. Braver than you think. One afternoon, we found a quiet cove away from the tourist beaches. We sat on the rocks, skipped stones, talked about the future. I don't want this to end when we leave, she said. It doesn't have to. She looked at me, eyes wide. Really? Really? We made plans. Real plans. She'd fly to Chicago in 2 weeks. We'd alternate visits every month. We'd video chat every night. We'd make it work because the alternative was unthinkable. On our last night, we sat on the beach and watched the sunset. She rested her head on my shoulder. Come with me, she whispered. Where? Everywhere. Anywhere. Just don't let this be the end. I turned, kissed her softly. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. We exchanged numbers, addresses, promises. She wrote her flight information in my phone. I wrote mine in hers. The next morning, we flew out at different times. Her flight left first. I walked her to the shuttle, helped her with her bags, and when she turned to say goodbye, I pulled her into a kiss right there in front of everyone. 2 weeks, she said when we broke apart. 2 weeks, I promised. I watched the shuttle drive away, feeling simultaneously heartbroken and hopeful. She was gone, but not really. Not forever. I flew home that afternoon, back to my empty apartment, back to my old life. But everything had changed. I had changed. A week later, she texted, "Missing you. Can't wait 2 more weeks." I typed back, "Come now. I'll buy your ticket." 3 days after that, she showed up at my door with a suitcase and a one-way ticket and a smile that made my heart stop. "Couldn't stay away," she said. I pulled her inside, kissed her, and everything else fell into place. The first month was hard. I introduced her as my friend from vacation. She didn't push, but I could see the hurt in her eyes every time I lied, every time I held back in public, every time I censored my feelings because I was afraid. One night, after too much wine, my sister came over. Amanda was sitting on the couch beside me, close but not touching. My sister kept looking between us, clearly confused. "Are you two?" she finally asked. I could have lied, could have deflected. But I looked at Amanda, at this woman who'd taught me what honesty felt like, and I found my courage. "Yes," I said. "We're together." Amanda's hand found mine. My sister was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. "About time you figured yourself out." Telling my mom was harder. Tears, questions, silence that stretched for days. But eventually, hugs. Eventually, acceptance. Amanda held my hand through it all, never wavering, never leaving. Now we've been together 3 years. We live in my city, though we visit Vancouver regularly. She works remotely. We still argue over sunscreen. I use too much, she uses too little. We still name stray cats we find, though none have been as memorable as Pickles. Sometimes, late at night when we're lying in bed, I'll ask, "Did you know you'd kiss me that night in the pool?" She always laughs. "No, but I hoped." I've stopped holding back, stopped hiding, stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. Because Amanda taught me something crucial that week in paradise. Love isn't a rule. It's not something you can control or deny or legislate away with fear. Love is a choice. A brave, terrifying, beautiful choice. And I chose her. Every single day, I choose her. And she chooses me back. If my journey inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe to Love Beyond Rules. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to stop hiding and start living. Thank you for listening to my story. Until next time, choose love, choose truth, choose yourself.